Sure everyone can hear me just fine. Welcome to today's employer webinar. I wanted to also let you guys know online with me today is my colleague, Nina Smith, with whom you'll hear from shortly. I serve as a strategic workforce specialist with the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. I joined the CDC in 2018, and prior to joining the CDC, I worked at the US Department of Health and Human Services. I entered the government as a military spouse intern, and my years of experience have all been in human resources, which I'm super excited about. As a public servant, I am definitely passionate about supporting the mission of public health. During today's presentation, you will learn about who we are as a federal agency and receive information about how to apply to careers at CDC and learn a lot more about different opportunities that you could take advantage of. Nina, next slide. Awesome, thank you. So on this slide, we wanted to share the HHS family of agency with you. So it's a lot of agencies that's comprised of the US Department of Health and Human Services. And we're under the leadership of Secretary Alex Azar. The CDC is one of 11 operating divisions that administers a wide variety of health and human services and conduct life-saving research for the nation. Way back in July 1946, the CDC opened its doors on one floor of a small building in Atlanta, Georgia. Today, the CDC is recognized as the nation's premier health promotion, prevention, and preparedness agency. Next slide. Awesome. The CDC is led by Dr. Robert Redfield, the CDC director, and it's headquartered in Atlanta, Georgia. Our main campus, Roybal, is adjacent to Emory University and covers over 15 acres of land. The CDC has 5 other campuses throughout Metro and North Atlanta. Atlanta is home to many Fortune 500 companies and a wide variety of attractions and historical sites. For example, the Coca-Cola factory, or the Coca-Cola company, I'm sorry, and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. National Park. So those are 2 very popular attractions in Atlanta. The CDC employs approximately 14,000 full-time personnel, contractors, fellows, and members of the U.S. Public Health Service in both domestic and international locations. So we have a lot of employees that work at the CDC. From this map, you'll see we have many national locations and provide service to many state, local, territorial, and tribal public health agencies and non-governmental organizations. The CDC has 16 locations in the US with facilities at the Research Triangle Park in North Carolina, Hyattsville, Maryland, Spokane, Washington, and Denver, Colorado, just to name a few. We also have a vessel sanitation program at ports of call where we do cruise ship inspections, and we're also at many busy international airports. For example, we at the Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport, we have a strong presence there. So the CDC is very well prepared to serve when the need arises for preventing any spread of disease. The Washington, D.C. area is our largest area for federal agencies, and Atlanta is our second largest regional office or regional location for federal organizations and agencies. Nina, next slide. Awesome. Our mission, it's simple. The CDC is the nation's largest health protection agency, working 24/7 to protect America from health and safety threats, both foreign and domestic. CDC increases health security of our nation by providing expert guidance, knowledge sharing, and support to protect the public through disease surveillance, health promotion, and prevention of chronic diseases, and other guidelines for effective public health actions. Now I'll let Nina chime in and share a few other information about the CDC and career opportunities.
Hello, everyone. As Marilyn mentioned, my name is Nina Smith. I am a human capital advisor with the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention in the Strategic Programs Office in Human Resources. And as Marilyn mentioned, she had mentioned that both of her assignments, one was at HHS and CDC. I have been with CDC only for the last 12 years. So this is my first federal experience. And I have been served in many capacities in the human resources area over the last 12 years. So many of you all might be interested in how you get to CDC. And so one of the very ways as students that you get into CDC is through the recent graduates, the internship, and the Presidential Management Fellowship. They all fall under the umbrella of the Pathways program. And each of the three components have different characteristics and categories and responsibilities for each, but they all have one major intent, and that is to create an avenue for students and recent graduates to explore careers in the federal government. So the internship program is for students, and this is for anyone who is registered as a student in an accredited institution, such as a high school, a bachelor's program, master's program, PhD, vocational or technical program. As long as your school or your institution that you're attending is an accredited program, you will be able to gain pay while exploring your career in the federal government. As an intern, you will have the opportunity to either work full-time or part-time. In some instances, we have programs that are through the duration of the summer. And then in some instances, like for our college students, we have programs that start when you're a junior, senior, freshman, and they go throughout the duration of your school period. If you are on an indefinite appointment, which is the appointment that I'm referring to through the duration of your educational program, you do have the opportunity to be promoted to different grade levels while you're under this particular program. The intent is that you will explore a career in the federal government, and then hopefully after you complete your assignment, if eligible, you can transition into a full-time equivalent position. Under the recent graduates program, this is for individuals who have recently graduated from an educational institution within the previous 2 years with either an associate's, bachelor's, master's, professional doctorate, and vocational degree. One thing I should say about the recent graduates program is that this particular program is a developmental assignment that lasts for a year. Once you've completed that year, you are eligible to transition into a full-time equivalent position. It is a paid opportunity, and during that time, you will serve in a variety of projects that will be related to the targeted position for which you would transition after the 1 full year. Under the recent graduates program, you are required to have 40 hours of training, and you will be required to have an individual development plan. What that does is just prepare you for future work within the federal government. And so that IDP will have a variety of different trainings that you'll be required to take, and what the skill sets that you will develop over the course of the year. Our Presidential Management Fellowship is our Premier Leadership Program. It is for master's level, JD, PhD graduates who have completed their education within the recent 2 years. The one thing about the Presidential Management Fellow that is a little bit different, aside from the fact that you do have to have a master's level or above, is that this is a 2-year fellowship opportunity. It does offer you the opportunity to do rotational assignments. In general, your rotational assignments could be with the agency that hires you. So for instance, if you were hired by the CDC, you can do your rotation, which is generally about a 4-month period at the CDC, just with a different office, or you can do your rotation with another federal agency. Where we see this a lot is that if someone is serving in, say, a policy position, and they want to find out a little bit more about how policy is developed on the Hill, they have the opportunity to go to do a internship or a rotation, I should say, with on Capitol Hill. If they want to find out a little bit more about the regulatory practices and they work at CDC, they could potentially do their rotation at, say, the FDA or any other federal agency for that matter. As I mentioned, they are required to have formal training. In this case, for Presidential Management Fellowship, since it is a 2-year fellowship, they have to have 80 hours of formal training. They also have to have an individual development plan. As I mentioned before, the IDP does detail the targets and the skill sets for which the intern or fellow, in this case, would have to meet before completing the 2-year program. And then after they have completed the 2-year program, they are eligible to transition into a permanent FTE. So as I mentioned before, some of the requirements for pathways are developmental assignments, mentorship. You will be provided a mentor that will sort of guide you throughout the duration of your program. Cross-training and rotations are a requirement as well. Public notice is a requirement as well. And what we try to do is to let you know that all of these positions that are covered under pathways are posted on USAJobs.gov, which is the federal application portal for which you would apply to any job within the federal government. So not just CDC, but if you were interested in a job with the Department of Labor, or you were interested in a job with FDA, you would have to apply to a job under pathways through USAJobs.gov. All of the positions, with the exception of the summer hire program, the summer hire program is just strictly for summer. Everything else has the eligibility to convert into a permanent FTE. And then there are major requirements that in order to maintain our authority within CDC to use these programs, we do have to have regular audits by the Office of Personnel Management. And if you are in the intern program, you will receive periodic reviews to make sure that you are still within good academic standing according to your educational institution. So CDC has something a little bit special that a lot of agencies don't have, is that we are trying to ensure that we develop the public health infrastructure. And how we do that is through a program called the Public Health Associates Program. It is a component under the Pathways Recent Graduate Authority. It does provide the opportunity for associates to train and provide experiential learning at public health programs across the country. So the premise here is that under the associates program, you would not necessarily just service the CDC. Although you would be a federal employee that works for the CDC, you are actually servicing the state and local agencies. So for the most part, you would be servicing the state and local health departments across the country. So most positions would be outside of the Atlanta area, because we have a variety of public health departments that host associates for their specific programs. So if Pathways is not an option for you, or you want to find out a little bit more about how other opportunities work, or you're still in school and you want to be provided an opportunity to gain a little bit more experience, maybe say at an advanced level or something that partners with your educational institution, we have a variety of fellowships that are owned by CDC, meaning that we manage, we recruit, and we pay comes from the Centers for Disease Control. Then we have sponsored fellowships, and those sponsored fellowships are generally a collaboration between CDC in addition to another sponsoring agency, such as an educational institution may partner with us to establish a fellowship, such as the one listed here. Project Imhotep is just one. And then we also have affiliate programs. What that means is that we have an affiliation with an organization. They have an internship or fellowship program, and we collaborate with them to bring that intern or fellow on through contract means, like in the ASPPH, which is the Association of Schools of Public Health and Programs of Public Health. And so ASPPH does all the recruitment. They do the selection of which which fellows could come to the CDC. And what we do is we have a contract with ASPPH, and we contract with that fellow to come to CDC to do specific project work in public health. These programs, unlike our Pathways programs, do not have a direct path to a permanent federal position, but it does provide you the opportunity to gain some real work experience in public health. What I always like to point out to people is that if you're looking at a career in the federal service, one of the very best ways to do that is through internships, recent graduates programs, and fellowships. So I definitely encourage you to take a look at that. And how you could do that is to go to our fellowships page, which I have provided a link in the presentation, but also we have a website, our external website, JobsCDCgov. You can find all about the fellowships and other opportunities with the CDC. And just a quick segue into that is, of course, as I mentioned, our jobs.cdc.gov page. It is a central site for candidates that are interested in coming to CDC. You have links to the application portal. As I mentioned, USA Jobs is the portal for which you apply to positions with the federal government. It does interface with LinkedIn somewhat. You can actually log into your LinkedIn profile using your LinkedIn user ID and password. And every time that you come back to the jobs.cdc.gov, any positions that match your profile based on what you have in your profile in LinkedIn will pop up. Some additional information on our jobs.cdc.gov page include any hiring events that we will be attending to recruit. Additionally, there are stories and features on our external hiring site that provides you information about opportunities with the CDC. It also tells you about what our culture is like at the CDC, what we look like as far as diversity is concerned, and just general stories about life working at CDC. We do have a couple what we call non-FTE programs, or for most of you who are on this call today, they are volunteer programs. One of which is the Student Worksite Experience Program. This is a volunteer opportunity that provides students with practical experience, and while it aligns with their educational programs. So you will contribute to tasks and projects, but they will be directly aligned to your educational program. It is, as I mentioned, a non-paid opportunity, but it is for high school students, college graduates, graduate students, and postgraduate students. More information about that, I've also included a link on the presentation as well. So some of you may be saying, I don't have a science background, or in this case, you may be saying, I'm a high school student and I'm not really sure right now what my degree is going to be when I enter college. Most people are not aware, although CDC is a scientific organization, we do have a lot of positions that are not necessarily in science. And a lot of those positions support our scientists and physicians. So for instance, we have what is called a public health advisor. This is one of the largest occupations that is within CDC. And this is one of the positions that I just talked about that is covered under the Public Health Associates Program. We do have physicians on. Just a kind of little bit of information about CDC as a whole is that when we were founded in 1946, primarily the agency was just physicians. And so now we've expanded to a variety of occupations that support the work or the mission that CDC does. We need health communication specialists. I'm sure many of you all have recently seen some of the TV commercials that we've had about using masks and washing and social distancing and things like that. So we need health communications specialists to disseminate that information out to the public, whether it be in media or in a written form. As you know, we do have health scientists. We have statisticians, epidemiologists. Epidemiologists is another one of the areas where we have a large number of employees that work at the CDC, and that's just due to the nature of what the agency does. But we also have contracts. I just talked a little bit about how some of our fellows come on board through a contract with our affiliate programs. We need to have contract specialists that are able to do those contracts, to write them up, to also make sure that we have the proper budget that's associated with a specific contract. So we do hire a lot of contract specialists as well. IT is a very big field here at the CDC. We have to have people to run our systems, and not only that, but to make sure that we are safe from any IT security threats. Behavioral science is another. Now, Marilyn and I both mentioned that we work in human resources. For those of you all, Marilyn did mention that we have about 14,000 employees, contractors, and members of the Commission Corps. But many of you all may not know that we have about 300 HR professionals that work at the CDC. And again, that just kind of goes to show you the breadth of what the agency does that is outside of what the norm is of the scientific positions that we have. Of course, that is our primary focus, but we do have a lot of other fields. I'm going to turn it over to Marilyn, who's going to give you an overview of what you should know about USA Jobs in the federal application process.
Awesome. Thank you, Nina. So definitely Nina gave a lot of information regarding opportunities at the CDC, fellowships, internships. So there's lots of flexibility there for you guys to take advantage of. But she also mentioned one very important website, which is www.usajobs.gov. So this is the federal government's platform for posting federal jobs. This is our Indeed, it's our Monster, it's our go-to site for federal applications. It also has information about different hiring mechanisms. It has a lot of great information that students can take advantage of. It has a lot of resume tips, handouts on using action verbs in your resume, and how to even craft your resume. So just a few little highlights. The system allows you to upload about 5 resumes, and then you can create different search filters. So you can create up to 10 search filters, and those are great because you definitely want to maximize your ability to getting as many search results as possible. And these can happen overnight. So once you created a profile, um, and you're ready to start building that, you want to make sure you have a few things handy. Your transcripts are one, a, a resume sharing kind of like your overview of what some experiences that you've had. So in doing so, the system will guide you through the entire process. It guides you through crafting your resume into the system. It highlights all the required fields and everything. So it's an easy, simple walkthrough. The system is very user friendly and easy to navigate. Some of these search jobs that you can search criterias that you can enter. Nina talked about the pathways program. So you could definitely set up a search filter or criteria for the pathways program. And if you want to target any specific agency, or you definitely have an interest in the CDC and you want to just target any pathways opportunities there, you could definitely set up that search, and as opportunities become available, you'll get an alert and you'll be first to apply. um, when when you see a job that you would be interested in applying to, you definitely want to click on the hyperlink for that job. Pay attention to like the location, if that's very important to you. You definitely want to pay attention to the part that says who can apply. Look for open to the public, or you could look for student eligibility criteria as well. So those are key indicators to kind of let you know that you would be eligible to apply for this particular job. Um, some other takeaways is that you can definitely want to make sure that you're reading the vacancy or the announcement, the job announcement in its full entirety. If you have questions, there's a point of contact listed at the very bottom that you can call to kind of, navigate whatever challenges or questions you may have. Definitely jot down the vacancy number, and that's normally found at the very top of the vacancy information, or you could probably find it at the bottom of under the category who can apply. And definitely include that information in any email or phone call that you make to our help desk. And I believe on our last slide, you'll have a copy of our HR help desk phone number, but I will share it with you now. It's HR customer service at cdc.gov. That's HRCS at cdc.gov. Um, you should also, take advantage of using this website to kind of explore different webinars that other agencies might be having. So if you have an interest in the FDA or any other federal agency, sometimes webinars are posted there as well. So the system is very robust. It has a lot of information. It definitely, like I said, is user friendly, but it's our go-to platform for applying to federal jobs. So I will, Nina, next slide. I don't want to overload you with too much information about the USA Jobs platform. Like I said, it's pretty self-explanatory, but we're happy to share a copy of today's presentation with Grace, and she can definitely share it out with those that would like a copy of today's presentation as well. But for this part, I wanted to kind of make sure that I highlight, Nina had on a few slides some resources. So these are just some quick takeaway resources that you guys can reference later on. We mentioned the US Department of Health and Human Services and a link to the CDC website. So you can definitely explore those websites at a later time, but definitely make sure you take or spend a little bit of time getting familiar with the USA Jobs platform and what's required and how to navigate that for setting up a profile and applying to jobs. So from that, we will stop and take a few questions. Nina, can you go to the
We
next
have a
slide?
few questions in the chat already.
Can you go to the next slide,
Um,
Nina? With the
can you not see it?
no, it's okay. It stopped on the question. It's okay. I was trying to see if there was another slide that had the email address for the customer service, but it may be in the chat box as well. Awesome.
We have a couple questions. One's from Ava, and Ava asked, do these internships happen during the summer? So the answer to that is some yes and some no. We generally have summer positions, summer hire positions start to be announced via USA Jobs, generally in January, February's timeframe. They actually start, or you would start to work in May of 2021, and you would work up until the time that you get ready to go back to school in August. These internships over the summer do not confer any permanent positions. It just is a summer position for the 3-month period that you're there. The other question is, what are the options for internships in the context of COVID-19? So right now, we do not have any interns that are working on any projects regarding COVID-19 at this time. In the upcoming spring semester, we may have some that directly relate to COVID. But as many of you know, we were sort of thrust into a 100% telework situation. So our summer, we didn't have any interns on board because we were all teleworking and adjusting to that process for our permanent staff. We do have a couple of interns that are working for the fall. And at this time, we don't have anyone that's doing COVID-related work. I have a question that says, I'm a high school junior. Does the CDC offer volunteer research projects to high school juniors? Yes, that's under the Student Worksite Experience Program that I mentioned. And you all will get copies of the slides, so you'll have access to go to that website and submit your interest in the Student Worksite Experience Program. There is a form that you have to fill out, and then you submit it to the HR Customer Service Help Desk in order to be eligible. Taylor, I am a current senior at Mississippi State, double majoring in biochemistry and microbiology, and I am working on my application for graduate school. Congratulations. More specifically, PhD programs. I am able to apply for one of the internships when I'm accepted to graduate school. That is correct. As a current student, you are eligible. And as a student that would be continuing into your graduate program, you would be eligible for a summer position. If you are more inclined to do something a little bit more permanent, the Public Health Associates Program, although you're going to be going to graduate school, so that may not be as beneficial to you right now, but that is for bachelor's level graduates. It does give them experience in public health, and the announcement for the Public Health Associates Program generally opens sometime in January, February as well. I should have mentioned earlier when I mentioned that program that we hire about 120 associates per year under that program, all at the bachelor's level. So that may be something that you might be interested in considering. Do we apply for internships through the same site? Yes, but I want to put a caveat. For a lot of our fellowships, there is a different website than USA Jobs. And that is because the fellowships in most cases are managed by either the CDC or some other agency that does the recruitment process. For internships under the Pathways program, yes, that is going to be USA Jobs. You will have to apply. And as Marilyn mentioned, when setting up your profile in USA Jobs, what you can do is go to, when you get to the main page of USA Jobs, there's a search bar right at the top of the screen. You can type in Pathways. And when you type in Pathways, you're going to get a host of positions, and you hit search. You'll get a lot of positions for a lot of agencies that are announcing Pathways announcements. If you want to drill down and just say Pathways, Atlanta, Georgia, that will bring up all of the Pathways announcements that are open for Atlanta, Georgia. And what you can do is you can save that search, save it in your profile once you create your profile, and then also what you can do from there is to ask that the system provides you with daily alerts of any jobs that match that criteria. So I'm going to give this one to Marilyn. It says, hello, are there any pathways to careers for prior military members?
Yeah, so there's actually prior military members. Yes, we partner with several organizations. Depending on your eligibility or your status, we partner with the VA. So we have a partnership with them for a non-paid work experience training opportunity. The VA pays the veteran the stipend. You come on board with the CDC and you gain valuable work experience. And a lot of our veterans go on to be permanent CDC employees. So that's a very great program to kind of take advantage of. So that's one avenue. But if you're enrolled in any Georgia Department or Labor or any state vocational employment readiness program, we also partner with them as well. One thing I can want to mention is that if you're a veteran and you're actively seeking federal employment, when you are on USA Jobs and you've built your profile and you've attached all your documentations and your DD-214, Nina always wants us to make sure that we remember this when we're talking about DD-214. Make sure you only upload your member copy for Nina.
Yeah, your
Yes.
member 4 copy.
Yes. So that's the copy that you're going to upload in the USA Jobs portal. But you want to make sure that you're making your resume searchable to recruiters like ourselves and other recruiters across the federal agency that are actively looking for veteran candidates as well. So just a few options, but there's lots of ability or veterans hiring initiatives across federal agencies to bring veterans to the federal workforce. Any other questions? Let's see.
What do statisticians, oh, I'm sorry, is there a virtual volunteer opportunity for volunteers? Under the SWEP program, I'm assuming that you're talking about. And right now, yes, there is opportunity to do a virtual volunteer experience because we are under 100% telework. And so we do have partnerships across the country with other educational programs, other educational institutions. And so depending on which program, which school you're going to, we could create a memorandum of agreement with that university or institution. The next question is, what do statisticians do at the CDC? Could you go more in depth? So we have a couple of different roles for a statistician. It really is going to depend on the subject area. And I say subject area because the CDC is comprised of centers, institutes, and offices, all of which has different missions. For instance, there is a Center for Global Health, which deals strictly or specifically with global health diseases. We have a Center for Maternal and Child Health, which deals with illnesses and diseases and education in maternal and child health. So it's going to depend. Both offices have statisticians. And then we have the National Center for Health Statistics, which is the bulk of our statisticians are based at. That's in Hyattsville, Maryland. They have a campus in Hyattsville, Maryland that specifically does lots of different things, but it's again based upon the area of specialty. But I can tell you that one of the things that the statisticians there do is that they actually do the data statistics for morbidity. So it's going to depend on, again, the specialty area for which office you are hired for. If you're hired as a statistician for a department in epidemiology, then a lot of your work will deal with disease detection and surveillance. And a lot of that will deal with the data that's collected for disease surveillance. So it really kind of depends. There's a question, does CDC hire any biomedical engineers? Yes, we do. We have, that's one of the areas that we are having a little bit of trouble with gaining folks that have experience. And so we do. So yes, the CDC does. Do we have any student loan forgiveness for any government roles you would serve in? Marilyn, do you want to take that one?
Yeah.
You're on mute.
Is that better? Awesome. So it depends on kind of when you're coming into the federal government and what specialty you're coming into. Sometimes that's a flexibility or an incentive that the federal government offers for your commitment to joining the public service. One thing I can say is that as becoming a public servant or a federal employee, you can definitely take the U.S. Department of Education has different loan forgiveness programs and different eligibility requirements. So as a federal employee, that would be something that you could definitely look into and see how best you can take advantage once you get to that point. I think it's after 10 years, but there's different requirements. You have to make so many consecutive payments and so forth. But there is a loan forgiveness program through the Department of Education.
Okay. I'm sorry.
I was saying, I think I got a few questions online as well.
We have another question. What sort of opportunities are there for research in the field of virology? That one, I think I'm going to table and ask that you send that request to our recruiter mailbox. It's recruiter@cdc.gov, recruiter@cdc.gov. I don't want to give you the incorrect answer. We do have individuals that have worked in virology at the CDC, but I want to make sure that I have the proper information, so I don't want to give you incorrect information. Are there CDC jobs also on usajobs.gov website? Yes. That's the only place that you can go other than fellowships websites that I mentioned before. So yes. I have a master's degree in health administration. What department would you recommend I seek to utilize my skill? Depends on how recent your master's. If you're in the recent 2 years, the Presidential Management Fellowship would be a good opportunity for you to apply. And for MHA graduates, primarily would be Management and Program Analyst would be a good position. Anything in health policy would also be good. Program Specialist. But I tell you, if you go to usajobs.gov, if you scroll halfway down the page, there is a section that says students and recent graduates. There are some resources there that says jobs by college major. You'd be surprised how many jobs or different types of occupations are in the federal government. I know for CDC, for MHA, you would probably look within the management field, which would be your management program analyst, your program specialist, your administrative support specialist, those types of positions, anything in health policy as well. For someone interested in studying psychology, would you recommend interning at the CDC in the behavioral science department? So we don't have, I would recommend interning at CDC for sure. We don't have one specific behavioral science department. As I mentioned before, each center, institute, and office is around a disease specialty. So for instance, you would have a behavioral science that could potentially work in the Center for Tobacco or chronic diseases. That person would be looking at the behavior of individuals who may smoke. They may be looking at, if they worked in, say, HIV/AIDS, the Division of HIV/AIDS Prevention, they might be looking at behavior of, say, condom use. And so I would say that yes, because you could have a wide variety of subject areas, because each and every center has a different subject or disease area. So yes, I would recommend interning for the summer. Do you have to be a certain age? Well, you do have to be a certain age to work in the federal government. You have to at least be 16 years of age. So other than that, you know, legal working age, and that's it. Other than that, there's no other age requirements to working for the CDC. Now, there are some other federal agencies that have age cap based on the type of mission that they do, but CDC is not one of them. Are the Pathways internships for summer 2021 already posted? No, not yet. They will generally post in January, February timeframe, but I do encourage all of you to go on to the usajobs.gov website and build your profile. And so that way you can be prepared. And I will set up an alert to notify me when any Pathways opportunities become available. If you get hired at a job location, Seattle, for example, what is the traveling like? Does the CDC require a lot of traveling between other national locations? That's going to kind of depend. And I say that because it's going to depend on what type of position you're chosen for. If you say we're chosen for a field position, there may very well be travel involved. If you are chosen for a position that's at one of our regional offices, then you would be maybe just stationary at the regional office. We don't have a facility in Seattle, to my knowledge. Oh yeah, we do. I apologize, we do. The National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health does have Seattle offices. and none of those positions, to my knowledge, require you to do travel. You may have to travel for some duties of your position, just depends on what the work is that you'll be doing. Thank you for your presentation. Are there any opportunities for students who are studying abroad to get involved? As long as, well, we generally do not select students for international positions because CDC is a domestic agency. And so we typically would not have any students serving in a capacity that's in a broad assignment. If you were, say, in a fellowship, then yes, your assignment may have you to travel, but your primary assignment would not be in an international setting. It would be that you would be assigned to a a domestic location, and you may have an assignment that takes you to an international location. But as a student, that would not be the idea, because we would not be able to travel a student to an international location.
Hi, Nina. There was a question about volunteering. I think the student was in New York and she was looking for volunteer opportunities. The CDC does have a facility in New York, in Queens, New York. So you could definitely volunteer through the SWEP program that Nina mentioned earlier. So you could reach out to our office and start or initiate the process of joining the CDC volunteer program, and definitely inquire about, volunteering at any specific site in New York.
Okay.
And then I think we answered this question. There's another question about summer internships in the summer. So yes, you could definitely apply to summer internships during the summer.
Where are summer internships located? Are they all locations you mentioned? It's again going to depend on which center, institute, or office has a need to hire summer students. So it really will depend. Most of the time we get requests for all of our locations to host a student for the summer. So yes, they could potentially be, but the announcement will tell you exactly which locations the positions are for the summer program. Are there internships in mental health, in the mental health field force in CDC or other federal institutions? You want to answer that, Marilyn?
I thought we answered that one earlier, but yeah, so I mean, someone with that particular background, you could definitely apply to jobs at the CDC. Nina talked about a lot of different jobs or occupations that are there at the CDC. Someone with that background could definitely apply to a behavioral scientist occupation. And then we talked about earlier about the HHS family of agencies. One particular agency is the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Service Administration. It's called SAMHSA. So that's another great agency. We're all within one family, and it's another great agency to kind of explore. They have lots of different internships and fellowships that students can take advantage of. So definitely look into that organization as well. This one is about, she's a junior in high school and she'd like to pursue computer science. So Nina talked about, IT being a very, what's the word, Nina, I'm looking for? A very demanding occupation or field, not only in the federal government, but at CDC. And that's a great field or occupation or degree to kind of take up as we move forward into the the years to come, we definitely see a lot more jobs stemming from computer science, data science, bioinformatics. So there's a great deal of demand or high demand for professionals in that particular uh, type of experience or background.
Are the internships only for US citizens? The announcement will specify if if you have to be a US citizen to apply. Some internships and fellowships do take those who are international students or international graduates. As long as you're currently on some type of visa, then yes, CDC will hire you, but you definitely do need to review the announcement closely. Will there be available internships for summer 21? Yes, I think we talked about that earlier. January, February's time frame is when the summer announcements become available.
There was
I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, you go ahead. I'm sorry.
What does a behavioral scientist do? I have a sociology degree. Does that apply to this position? So at the CDC, you may be looking at specific behaviors for a specific disease. As I mentioned before, we have a lot of data or research that we do that talks about the behaviors of those, say, that are drug users, for instance. They will write reports on the behaviors. Like why were they, not necessarily using new needles, the actual behavioral trends of a specific disease. Or like HIV, as I mentioned before, it may be about the specific behaviors as to why a disease continues to transmit or continues to be an issue. Smoking is another one. Heart disease. You may be looking at things like, well, what is it behaviorally that has caused an individual to be at risk for heart disease? And so for us, for CDC, that's primarily what behavioral scientists do. At other agencies, it may be very different depending on the mission of their organization. Like, for instance, Marilyn mentioned the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Mental Health Agency, SAMHSA. And so their behavioral scientists may do something very different than what the behavioral scientists at CDC do. Does CDC have internship opportunities for IT majors? Yes, yes, and yes. That is a high area right now where we are looking to beef up our channels. So continue to watch out for internship opportunities because yes, we definitely do need IT majors.
I think we're getting close to our time. So this is going to be our last question. You guys have had lots of questions for us today. So we're glad that you definitely took advantage of Nina and I sharing this information with you. So the last question is, are the volunteer program for high school students listed on USA Jobs? No, you would need to, you can go to our website and it's careers at jobs.cdc.gov, and you can look up the SWEP program there, or you could type in volunteer and there's a search criteria that'll pop up, or you could just type in, just even if you want to Google, volunteer program at CDC. Or for more information, you can even reach out to our HR help desk at HR customer service as HRCS at cdc.gov, and just send them a quick email and let them know that you want to inquire about the SWEP volunteer program. Awesome. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Grace, for hosting Nina and I today, and we really appreciate this. We will make sure that Grace get a copy of today's presentation to share with everyone as well. So
Thank you
thank you.
all.
Thank you for having us. Have a great day.